Hello, good morning. I would like to say that it's a big honor I'm so happy to be here talking about this because I'm very emotional at this moment and a bit nervous. But I will talk about this project that is a special project, but first introducing myself. I'm Michael Sousa, I come from Portugal. I'm a researcher, so I'm connected to several universities, especially the University of Coimbra in Portugal. And I'm the chief game designer of a non-profit in the United States that we develop games as planning support tools for planning processes for disasters, preparedness, emergency management, and those type of things. So using games as tools to create new things. But today I'll be talking about a project that is something different, that is connected to how can we use these games for schools as tools for teachers and for children. And this is connected to some of my experiences as a teacher myself and as a researcher. But first of all, I'm a gamer. I love games. And it's because I love games that I'm here and I'm really motivated to do all this work related to games. And I'm also a content creator, but in Portuguese. So I will not talk in Portuguese for you, for sure. But I tend to consider myself as a gamer first because my experiences with working with games told me that it's very important to be a gamer first because it will help us to do a better job. And there's some of the professional background, so this is some of the work that I do in the university. So you can see here, it's a game to help you to plan a network of schools. So it departs from optimization models and transform this into a way so municipalities could plan how they will locate their schools. And this is a good tool, for example, when we want to engage the citizens in the decision process. So this can be done in the game. This is in our laboratory at the University of Coimbra. And this is part of my work as a researcher. Also, one of my work is to teach game design. And this is one of the classes in the University of Aveiro, where sometimes I teach their design courses. And in this case, they are using the tool that I will be talking today. That is a tool that allows us to use analog games as a way to prototype and develop digital games. So it can be used in any level of education. So these are master students, but I will talk about the same tool that can be used with elementary children, elementary school children. So it's quite flexible. And you can see another game. This was one of the recent ones where I developed this game to work with a municipality where the users and the citizens could plan their transport system. So, and this is another one. This one was created for the United States. That is a game about a blackout. We had a giant blackout in Europe some months ago. So it's like, how could we plan for these events and all their cascading effects? So this is like a tool to help us work better. But what I really want to talk today is about this experience with teachers. These are some of my classes, and all these students are teachers, real teachers that teach real students in Portugal from all the levels. And it's this experience of training these teachers to use games that allowed me to create the tool that I will talk about. And usually, the type of approach that I follow is they need to play a lot of games in this session. So they need to increase their game knowledge about what type of games exist so they can choose, adapt, and do a better use of these games. And this was one example. And then this publisher, Creative Toys, asked me something which is not very common. I didn't pitch this idea. They come to me and ask me, we want a game about the creation of games. And I thought, well, that's a difficult thing to do because there are already a lot of blank kits that you can use for this. You can buy them anywhere, blank boxes with blank components that you can change and write on them. So this is nothing new. And what I said to them, what we need, it's really a process to learn the games. We need something that is not just giving the pieces and hope that they can create a game. We need to guide them, showing them new game mechanics, new way as the game mechanics are interpreted into a narrative view of the game. And this was what I tried to do, and was one of the things we can do, and it's my experience on this topic, is it's better if you start just by playing the games. And then after you understand the game system, you can tweak it, you can change it, and then you can change it to a specific goal. And this is, for me, what I usually recommend as a way to start. You should start like this. Don't start to create a game without knowing at least the basics and what's the state of the art of the game industry. So, because otherwise you will fail for sure. And this was the case that we were trying to do with this project, was you will play, then you'll gain some game experience by playing many different games, collaborative games, competitive games, games with economy, games with narrative, all the types of things. And then you could tweak the game to see what happened. And you will repeat, and you could enter more complex games, and you'll do this in a progressive way. As we do in games, games are progression systems, where each time we pass a level. And sometimes the levels are not defined, but we go into deeper levels of the game, with more complexity, more mechanics. We want to do more, and we are able to do more. And it was something that I tried to implement in this case. From my experience, I know that most people only know roll and move games. It's like the majority of people only know this. And this is something that we need to deal with. So I departed from this notion of a roll and move game. And then I have a roll and move game, and then I challenge the players to add new mechanics and new systems to see the result. When we change this, we see that the games provide a different type of experience. And this is connected to several academic frameworks and scientific frameworks that say that whenever we create a game system, usually players feel a specific type of experience, and then we can connect both. And in this case, it was like proposing like to introduce game mechanics as the game progresses each stage. So this was the concept that we tried to implement, to put the players feeling the emotion of playing a game with different mechanics. And then each level on this game that I'm presenting will challenge the players to do something. For example, the first game, it's really a roll and move game, totally random. So when they add a new mechanic, they see that by adding a mechanic that is deterministic, where my options, my decisions have some effect in the game, I started to see some differences. And it's difficult to use games in classes and for teaching if you cannot establish connections between decisions and results. Otherwise, everything is random. And how can we evaluate this? And this was the process for the game. New levels, new mechanics, new experiences, and always asking the players to do these changes. And then the first game, it's a mass market game, it's called level 0. And then level 1, 3, 4, 5, and it's just adding mechanics to this framework. And then when we got to level 4, it's divided into a new game. This game, it's called Cube Control, which is a Euro game. So they see that starting from roll and move game, by adding and removing mechanics, they start to see the framework and the game changing. And the other one is an adventure game. So with the exact same framework, we can make it evolving until we get two totally different things. So this is a way to show the players that sometimes games share the same structure. And it's this ability to change it and to understand the core of the game, sometimes we call core mechanics, that is essential. And this is, I think this is essential even for teachers to use it. So this is how the game resulted. So, and one of the things of this game is that every component should be, you should be able to write on any of the components, even the cover of the game. And this was something like a challenge, because then we proposed a platform where the users could submit their own games. So this is kind of it's not, we didn't get a lot of submissions right now because the game is only available in Portugal and Spain, but it's something that we want to develop. So if people created new games with this tool, they should be able to submit it. And then if we got enough submissions, we might do something with them. And then this is like the playtesting process of the game. You can see this is Atelier Con, that is maybe the most famous and biggest and oldest Portuguese board game conventions that I'm part of the organization. So we tested the game there with gamers, because it's very important to test this with gamers. And you can see by the game that everything, it's modular. We can change and rearrange everything. It was part of development process to use like the minimum amount of components in a way that it could be transformed into anything. And then we created some game jams and family game jams where families could go there, play the game, test it, and created new games. And for example, in just like 3 hours, they were able to generate several games. So it's possible to apply even for in a very casual environment. And then we play test it with actual teachers. So this is a course that is recognized by the Ministry of Education in Portugal, where they are using their games to create new games and to put their students into this task of developing games. And they tested these games with their children. So this is something that is happening and proved to work. So it's possible. But there were some challenges, and there are still some challenges connected to this project. One of it was the production and development. For example, we need that every part of the component could be something we could write on. The dice, the tokens, everything. The board should be modular. There's mathematical scales in everything around the number 4 and number 10 to really create the game economy. And for example, maximum modularity. The boards, the cards, everything need to be integrated. And also, predict the game economy. If you notice, when you look at the components, everything surrounds the number 4, the 4 colors that are very common in board games. So it was all created around it. Even the pens, the colors that you write on. And you can see, you can even have the forms to write the hexagons and the meeples and whatever you want to add to the game. So it includes everything. And another big challenge was creating something that was not super expensive. Because my main idea, it was like 100 euros game. Because I wanted to put all the components, all the elements, all the things that we usually use in games. But we had to tweak and do refinement after refinement until we got something that was less than 30 euros, that was viable. Meaning that even when compared to those boxes that are just blank components, this is competitive enough. So it was a challenge. But one of the biggest challenges of this game is, how do we explain this? Because this is like a box to create games, which is a set of games. How do we do marketing for this? How do we explain to people how to use this type of tool? This was one of the challenges, and still a challenge that we have some trouble to explain to people. So people are engaged, but they really need to try it. But it's like in any game. Unless you try it, you really don't know how it works and the potential of the game. And we are now working on the expansions, the things that are missing in the game. So, for example, you can see there are 3 games there. Maybe they will be done next year, we don't know. But for example, the first one, it's a card game because we want to add more cards so they can do like deck building games, more things with cards, like more trick-taking games. That is a very common type of game that we know that exists. So in this project, it's like each game, it's a game of its own. So you could buy this game and to explore a specific kind of mechanic, and then add to the other game. Even the boxes, they fit together, so you can use the boxes as something. So in the next one, it's like a facts dexterity game with timers, because the original game doesn't have timers, and timers are very important, especially for party games. We really need them to create this sense of stress and urgency. And the other, it's like a tile placing game, because we have boards, we have cards in the original game, but the budget didn't allow us to go to tiles, and tiles that could be right on. So it was a challenge. So this is where we are going with the product, if this is a success or not. Maybe next year, we are not sure. But in order to make some conclusions, and we have some time for questions if you have some, let's summarize this. So My recommendation is we should start from systems that the players already know. This is a better way. Even if we are hardcore gamers, we know that games can be amazing in many different ways, different game systems. People that are not into this will not understand us. And it will be for sure a very high cognitive load to explain all these new systems to a new user. So we should start with something they already know, and then do a gradual adding of new mechanics, new models, new things that they can rediscover with respecting their own time, the type of new games that we are wanting them to see. So, and I would always also suggest that using progression as a rule should start simple, should increase the complexity, and then respecting the time, the flow of each person. So we can go into deeper levels if we want. So starting from easy things, it's easier, and you will have players and teachers to learn the game. For example, one of the findings of this project was some of the teachers, when we proposed the game, they said, well, children will never get this. This is so complex, because they were not getting it. But once we give the games to the kids, they already played it. It makes all the sense. For example, the adventure game that has avatars and you have power-ups and things to attack and defend, kids immediately understand the game, everything, no problem. Teachers were very confused with it. So sometimes we need to respect what each of the users know, and some of the users are teachers and children, they are different. So we need some type of process to guide this and to help them. And I would say that this game, the game creator said, it's like a teaching tool. As a thing by itself, it doesn't teach anything. But with a motivated teacher that wants to use the game, it can be a powerful tool. So games will not solve all the problems of mankind, will not do everything for us, but they can be tools when we prepare these teachers to use them. So this is why it's very important to have these training sessions, these courses, integrate this game-based approach in the curriculum of the training for teachers. It's the only way that they will ever use it, because it's very common when these teachers, it's very common they come to me and they ask me, please give me a game to teach a very specific type of thing about math. And I say, well, that's very specific. We should develop a game specific for that. And it's better if we develop the game with you. So sometimes we really need to prepare them to be more, to have more autonomy in this process. And autonomy only comes if you really know what you are doing. And if you have time for it in your institution. Sometimes institutions are also a constraint, because some are very open to this and some are very close. And they do not give you enough time to explore this type of activities. And when we go into this, then we can explain concepts like game-based learning, like gamification, serious games, simulation games, because these are all topics and concepts that especially you use in academia, but are very mixed into what is the common knowledge about this, and sometimes we are not talking about the same thing. Sometimes people say, let's gamify that, and they are not really thinking about gamification as a systematic way of doing stuff. The same for serious games, or whatever type of other concept you use. So, and we realized that this box, although the box has a sequence of guidelines of, I even appear in the box as a cartoon, as you'll see. If we give this to children without saying anything to them, they can immediately start to using the game. We test this and it works. They immediately start to do interpretation of the components, it's seeing that this is an avatar, this could be a resource, this could be a truck. It's very common for them. So we can use it even without the process. And it was a success, this testing that we did without the process. And we see that it's not as expensive as any other projects, but when we try to do this, at least in the base box, there are enough components to create a game. But sometimes these educational tools, they are very expensive. and we need to really take into account the value and the price for the user. Because when we work in the serious game field, we are not just selling a box. We are selling all the knowledge and all the research that was there in the process of the development of the product, which sometimes make this very expensive and not comparable with all the games that we see here being sold, that they aim for different quantities, different production processes. In this case, we were able to mix the industry, because this company, it's almost a mass market game publisher. We were able to do this type of integrated approach. So it's sometimes a challenge to do this. And so our challenge, and something that I ask your opinion, your suggestions, is how do we frame this? How can I talk more about this product that is a game, that is a process, that is a set of games, that is a box to create games? How should we pitch and promote this, if you think this is a good thing? And yes, you can contact the publisher to give some ideas. They are not here this year, but I think they will be here next year. You can also contact me, and you can contact me directly from my email, and you can see my serious game projects and research on my website. And now I think I'm open to questions if there are any.
Exactly. Thank you very much. So we have this wonderful cube for questions. I will throw it in the audience. There's a black box here. Please speak directly into this.
Hello. Do you have any had to deal with any kind of copyright issues with respect to the games that are created by the users of the game, the kit?
So let me say if I understand the question. So when the users create new games,
yes,
it's like they submit it to the platform and they have the rights of the game. It's there. If it's go to a development process, they will have a contract with them to safeguard the rights. Like I have my own as a creator of the game. So
okay, thank you.
Any more questions? We have the cube over here. Can you just throw it back, like 3 rows back? Ooh, perfect catch. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you for the presentation. I also work on training at university professors, but in gamification. And one of the first barriers that we often face is that people don't see games as something serious. And I wanted to know, how did you overcome that initial barrier to get others interested in the power of the board games?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I usually talk about that as games as a prejudice. Mm-hmm. And usually I follow 2 approaches. Sometimes I do not say they are playing a game. They are playing an interactive exercise like a simulation, but it's really a game. Sometimes I do that. And sometimes I use the other thing, that is, did you know that the military used games that like 200 years ago they started to use games? Do you think that the military are joking when they are using games? And then they say, yeah, of course not. It's a very serious business. So usually I try to do the both.
There's a question behind you.
Thank you. I have a question. I think it goes in the same logic as the previous question, but I'm not that worried about the game situation, but about the playing. How do you differentiate from the, let's say, configured game experience to actually have them playing so that they can go over the rules that you had originally imagined for the session?
I'm not sure if I understood the question, but maybe it's something about player profiles. How do we manage the player profiles?
Yeah, like the difference between, let's say, configured, clear rules, not like games, and playing or playfulness, so that when you work with teachers, it's not only about the didactical perspective, but finding them that they understand the power of playing beyond the structured play.
Yeah, I would say that it's about experimentation, so allowing them to experiment. But my experience says that teachers need some guidelines first. It's not that we say, take the box and use it, and then they don't know how to use it. I would say that this is like the next level. After you are comfortable, you know enough, you can have autonomy to really explore all the paths that you want to explore. At least it's my experience that we should provide some guidelines, unless it's like just any other box that it sits alone in the school, in the corner, and no one picks it up.
There's one more question, I think, behind you, right? Right over there. Thank you.
Hi. So my question is kind of very practical. You said that you made sure that every part of your set is can be written on. So
Yeah.
on the contrary, can you also like wipe it away of everything? So is everything reusable?
Yes. Yes.
That's very nice.
You can reuse everything in the game. It's like once you create a card, you don't throw it away. You just clean it, use it again. It was part of the process to get to a place where we could reuse everything. This is why, like, even the cover of the game, it's like a sleeve that you put and you remove, and then you can use even the box. So you can create the cover of your game.
Very nice.
Right behind you.
Hallo. Ich habe eine Frage, kann ich das auf Deutsch?
Ja, klar, können wir
Okay,
übersetzen, ja.
Super. Ja, ich bin Ingenieur und ich habe jetzt ein Problem. Du hast auch sehr viel von Testen geredet. Und meine Frage wäre, wie findest du Tester? Zum Beispiel für meinen Fall ist das so, dass ich das Spiel für Kinder gebaut habe, die so 10, 12 Jahre alt sind. Und die Eltern, ich schätze, das ist so immer eine Sorge von Eltern, dass die Kinder irgendwie testen zu lassen, ob er so einen Chip hat, wie man das irgendwie an Tester kommt, das zum Beispiel für ein Physik- oder Technikspiel, das auch dafür gedacht ist, um solche Sachen beizubringen.
Und was für ein Problem haben die Eltern damit?
Nee, ich schätze, das ist so
Ach so.
schwierig an Testern zu kommen, wenn die so Minderjährige sind.
Ah, okay.
Quasi. Ob er so einen Tipp hat, weil er sehr viel von Tests geredet hat.
You speak fluent German, right? No.
Of course not.
He wants to know how he can test games with kids and talk to the parents, like if they are maybe afraid of that, or how do you get the approach to get kids to test the game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so sometimes there are several ways we can do this. Sometimes it's done through the school, where there are like extra activities that families, it's like part of the strategy where schools have strategies to include the bigger community. So, for example, sometimes libraries do this quite often, and sometimes it's just these game jams that sometimes are done with the municipalities. I've done several projects where the municipalities are part of this, and we do this like a coordination between the educative services of a specific municipality or the schools.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. One more question over there, just behind you.
Hello. Thanks for the presentation. You mentioned that you work with the government and the Ministry of Education in Portugal and municipalities. But how can you tell us a bit how that unfold after your initial approach? Is that something that they're keep doing it? Like, are the teachers applying this, or is it something one thing? Because I also want to include games in my classes, but I don't know if it's something that is a one shot or a real progress from the government.
Yeah. In these cases, for example, it's a pity. I suppose that you don't speak Portuguese, because if you go to my YouTube channel, one of my latest talks there, it's with a teacher that was one of my first students that is now running several courses about games. And because he works more with narrative design, he applied some of the things he trained with me, and even this game, to develop narrative games. Imagine, this is more like an hero game, but it's possible to do narrative. What I would say is, in this type of project, sometimes it's just you know someone that knows someone. If they have decision power, they ask you because they understand the potential. It's like that, it's reality. Sometimes we use these conferences, these academic badges that we use that are useful to make this more reliable. And one of the other things is that in these groups, whenever you do this is like voluntary courses that they can do and they are recognized. Not all of them will use it, but for sure at least 10, 20% are really motivated and they will find a way to use it. So I know that several of my former student teachers are applying them in reality.
Thank you very much.